Alright, this one's a bit more unscripted, off the cuff, from the hip, because with this video I want to simulate a live streaming scenario. Because this is a tech review of the LIVEPRO L1 multi-format video mixer from feelworld. It's basically an ATEM Mini half price, with less of a feature set, but all the features that it does have, they work pretty well. And they might be exactly enough for what you're trying to do. So I hope at the end of the video you have a clear idea of whether this LIVEPRO L1 is an option for you. Now I'm not doing an actual live stream because my internet upload speed just isn't up to the task. I cannot get the kind of quality I would like a tech review to have actually live streaming with my internet connection. So I'm recording this to my Ninja V right here onto an SSD using DNX HD, I believe. In any case, the Windows version of ProRes. It's the camera signal spliced through the LIVEPRO L1 into the Ninja V, so that's the quality you're looking at right now. As far as editing goes, or post-production, I'm doing a one take. I might do some color grading in post, maybe have some titles show up here and there, some animations, but I'm not gonna cut it. So it does resemble a live streaming scenario. Now, because that's the nature of this video, I have prepared something to give you an idea, an overview of what is to come in this video. It's basically a 3-part video. Part number 1, layout. I'm going to show you all the tech that I'm using right now to make this setup happen. And I'm going to show you how all of the different parts are connected. Part number 2, functions. We're going to toggle the input sources. I'm going to show you the main menu. We're going to set up a custom transition and use buttons and the T-bar to execute that transition. That's part number 2. Part number 3, stream. I'm going to show you how I set up my Open Broadcast System software, or OBS, to stream and why I do it like I do it. Then I'm going to show you how to get a streaming key and how easy it is to use that streaming key to stream, for example, to YouTube. And then after that, it's just the outro. So let's start with part number 1, the layout. Now, to give you a better idea, I'm using camera number 2. And I'm setting that up right now to show you or give you a close-up of the LIVEPRO L1 console. All right, that's a good enough shot, let's say. So this is the interface of the LIVEPRO L1. 1, 2, 3, 4 inputs. The T-bar right here, how that works I'm going to show you in a moment. Most notably, there is a preview monitor on the device itself. And that is something that the ATEM Mini, or none of the ATEMs really, offer. And it's pretty cool because with the ATEM you have to hook up an external monitor to get a preview, to know which camera is where, at least with a visual representation. Whereas the LIVEPRO L1, you can just use it like this without an external monitor. Of course, those are not big enough to judge whether a frame is good or not, but it still shows you where you're getting your signals and what camera gives you what frame. Now, the red one is the one that's live. All the green ones are active, but where there's no input signal, like camera 4, this thing doesn't light up and you're getting a black screen. All the others show the number of the input, the resolution, and the frames per second. Now, let me reposition the camera. Yeah, let's go like this. Yep, that works for me. So 1, 2, 3, 4 HDMI inputs. Input number 1, that is camera number 1. Input number 2, that is camera number 2, this one right here. Then input number 3, that is currently the laptop. So the laptop is mirroring its screen and outputting that signal to the LivePro L1. Okay, I know this was supposed to be a one-take video, so here's the first exception to that, because I forgot to show you something. To not have an extended desktop but mirror your display, come to System Preferences, come to Displays, and then select Arrangement and check the box for Mirror Displays right here. Because if you don't do that, you're getting an extended desktop, which might work in some situations, but usually you want to mirror your laptop or computer display. So this is where you can do that via input number 3. And then input number 4, the one where you could hook up another camera or another laptop, desktop, another HDMI device. Then this is the HDMI output of the LivePro L1. So you can output either the preview or the live streaming signal to an external monitor. Let me show you how that works. So this right here, that is my Ninja V. HDMI connection goes to the LivePro L1, specifically the HDMI output. So this outputs the signal to an external HDMI device. In my case, it's a Ninja V because I want to record onto the SSD, but traditionally you would use just an external monitor for that output signal. Then this obviously is DC connection, power connection. Then on the side right here, let me up the ISO a bit. Then on the side right here, we got audio out. So you could hook up headphones to monitor your audio. You got an audio input if you wanted to use a microphone and directly feed the signal to the LivePro. This is the USB output signal. So the LivePro outputs a video signal, which is either the preview or the live streaming signal via USB 3. And in my case, it is connected, give me a second, to a USB-C hub. That's because with the LivePro L1, you're getting a USB-A to USB-A cable. And unfortunately, this MacBook right here doesn't have USB-A connectors, only USB-C. So I'm using a USB-C hub, and the video signal, the streaming signal from the LivePro L1, and it exits the LivePro L1 right here and enters the USB-C hub and is then transmitted to the laptop, which in this scenario would be the streaming device. Also, the laptop outputs the monitor signal via HDMI. So it outputs it, to be exact, via USB-C to the hub, and then HDMI to input number 3 on the LivePro L1. That's the monitor signal. That is this one. Then Ethernet connection. So you could hook this up directly to a router to get control via the XPOSE software. More on that in the end. So you could hook up both the streaming device, which is the laptop, and the LivePro L1 to the same router so they would find each other and were able to communicate. But I think it's much easier to just hook up the LivePro L1 to the streaming device, in my case via this USB-C hub, and then make sure the streaming device has a cable internet connection, which is the most stable option. In my case, I realized that via this Ethernet port on the USB-C hub. All right, that's all the parts and how they're connected. Let me just put this cable over here. Yeah, so that's all the parts that I'm using and how they're connected. So, next up, functions. Toggle inputs, export the main menu, and then how to use transitions. Obviously, I have already been toggling inputs. That is super easy and is done via the buttons on top. Now, let's explore the main menu. Again, I have to set up the camera to give you the best possible shot. Let's see how I do this. Yeah, maybe even zoom in a little. No, I have to do it like this. Just so you can see, I'm trying to get rid of this reflection right here. So I have to do it like that. Let's make sure focus is in the right place. Excellent. Okay, so the menu you enter via this button right here. And then you use this knob by turning it to select the menu item. And by pushing it down, you enter the submenu. The input submenu shows you all your inputs. If an input doesn't have a signal, number one, this doesn't light up, and number two, it says no input. All the others show you the resolution in frames per second. HDMI, you can choose to either go final streaming image, PGM, or preview. And if you switch during a live stream, your stream is gonna black out for a second and you're gonna lose maybe a second and a half of audio. So I'm gonna push this and you're gonna see what the stream is going to look like. Sorry. After 5 seconds of no actions, it goes back to live view. So let's go to preview. Yeah, and then this is what your stream will look like. This is the preview signal. It doesn't really make too much sense to output something different from that. If you want to record via a Ninja, right? If I were to output this to the streaming device, this is a stupid image for a stream. This is only useful if you output it via HDMI. But you can select to do it or to not do it. Since I want to record my live stream onto my SSD, I'm not going for preview, I'm going for PGM. And there we are back again. Now, obviously, if you were to use not a recording device, but just a monitor, and probably a bigger one than the Ninja, the preview is actually fantastic because it's even bigger than this screen on the LIVEPRO L1. But since I'm using the Ninja, it's bigger than this screen on the LIVEPRO L1. But since I'm using the Ninja, for me, it only makes sense to output the actual streaming signal. But if you were to use an external monitor, you could output the preview, where you can see the overview of all the inputs via HDMI, and output the actual streaming signal, so the edited version, over USB, which is what you would normally do because it's unlikely that you would use a Ninja to record a live stream. That's just something that I'm doing right now. Let's continue with the menu. So after HDMI, or in HDMI, you can also choose the format of the output. So all my cameras are currently set to 25 frames per second with a resolution of Full HD, 1920 by 1080. And by the way, that is the maximum resolution that the LIVEPRO L1 can stream, Full HD, 1920 by 1080, and the frame rates are 50 or 60 using NTSC max. So Full HD 60 or 50p respectively is the max quality you can get from the LIVEPRO L1. No 4K and no more than 60 frames per second. Now, USB output, same thing. This is the signal that you're streaming. So you can either stream PGM, which is the edited stream, or again, you could stream the preview, which really rarely makes sense. So I'm staying with PGM. Again, you can choose the format. This is important. If your cameras are set to Full HD 60p, but you do not set Full HD 60p right here in the USB 3 output submenu, you will not stream 60p but 25p. Since my cameras are all set to 25 and this is 25, it works. Next up, audio. There's different options. You can pull audio for your stream from input number 1, which is what I'm doing right now. Inputs number 2, 3, and 4 are also available, of course. And then external and embedded is also an option. I'm staying with input number 1. Audio bars on. Well, this will show audio bars on the preview that you can output. Let me show you. The audio bars I'm talking about are the ones right here. So these things, you can turn those on and off. Okay, after audio, it's IP setting. You could give this its own IP. This is really only important if you hook this up directly to the router. So you have to check the configuration of your router, see what IP addresses it will take, and make sure you're within that range with the LIVEPRO L1. Then after IP setting, language, well, it's English or Chinese, I guess. So English is fine. You can reset all settings, self-explanatory. And info shows you device serial number, IP address, MAC address, MCU version, video version. I guess this is firmware. All right, and that's it for the main menu. So the feature set isn't as rich as with an ATEM, as I've already said, but to be honest, it's all there. Everything you need for a simple, technically proficient live stream is there. It's easy to reach, it's intuitive to use, and so far the user experience with the LIVEPRO L1 has been really, really good. Next up, let's check. Setting up a transition and using either the button or the T-bar to execute that transition. So transitions are important. Transitions are an important feature for every live stream, and obviously, of course, the L1 also offers you quite a few options. Let's check them out. So to set up a transition, you come over here to the SW button, right under where it says Effects. One push gets you into the transition menu. Turning this knob lets you select the one. Now I had a simple fade. Let's go for something a bit more exotic. Yeah, maybe this one. So you select via turning the knob and you lock in via pushing. One more push of the SW button gets you into the mode. Now here you can select fast or T-bar. We're going to stick with fast, and this is going to allow us to simply cut or transition via pushing the input buttons. Then you can set a time from 0.5 seconds all the way up to 5 seconds. Me personally, I like 1 second. One more push shows you picture in picture. Now there's the standard options, centered, upper left, upper right, lower left, lower right. And then there's these distorted views. I really don't know what they would be good for because they look kind of terrible, but they're also an option. So I'm not using picture in picture right here. So I'm turning this off. Now there's another option or another menu, another LED right here that says FX, but that one isn't active using the L1. It's only active using the L2. So another push gets you back into live view. Now, doing a transition is pretty simple. The red one shows you the input that you're currently using, and you just choose one of the green ones to transition to, like camera number 1. And there we go. That's how easy it is. This is a transition we have set up. Simply check where you are, check where you want to go, push that button, and that's it. Now, T-bar. This thing right here. This is interesting. This is how it works. Again, we're going into the effects or transitions panel. Now let's choose something. Well, let's just make something obvious. Swipe from the left. Right. So we are selecting this transition. And now, instead of fast, I'm going for T-bar. Now I could still set the time, but it has no relevance. I'm going to show you why in a moment. Picture in picture, I don't need, and we're back to live view, so to speak. Now with T-bar, it's a bit different than with the button selection. You know, we're using currently input number 2. Now you have to select which camera to transition to. I select camera number 1. Now this one's blinking. So I know this is where I am. This is where I want to go. Now I can use the T-bar to execute the transition. Check this out. I can do it slow, I can stop, or I can do it fast. I can do it backwards. I can basically do anything I want using the T-bar. Now, I'm not sure when exactly you would use this all of the time, but you can do some interesting, maybe even funny bits during a live stream if you're using the T-bar, because you have more control over the transition itself. Now, me personally, I don't use that often, so I'm gonna set, first of all, a fade that I like. Second of all, I'm gonna go back to fast, so I'm just pushing the buttons, and 1 second is fine. Not using picture in picture. Back to live view. Now this is still blinking because before we have used the T-bar. If I want to switch, I just hit 1, and there we go, simple fade. And now the blinking is over. And this is how I prefer to do it. So these are the options you have, setting up and executing transitions. And again, it's very intuitive, very simple and fast to set up. And I think you got all the transitions you need. The ATEM might offer even more transitions than that. I'm not quite sure. But hey, what you need is there for sure. And most of the time you're going to use the basics anyway. So that's it for part number 2. Let's check out what's next. Part number 3, streaming. So I'm going to show you how I set up OBS, Open Broadcast System, and why. So let's get rid of that camera. No, not totally rid of it, but let's get it out of the way because I need to be able to access the laptop. All right, let's get rid of this. So OBS is available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. Currently, this is what it looks like. Let me just remove the LIVEPRO L1 because that's not how you're going to start. You are going to start like this, most likely. Now, if you've used OBS before, but for recording, and now want to switch to streaming, this is what you would set up. If you're starting OBS for the first time, it will automatically ask you, do you want to set OBS up for recording or for streaming? In our case, obviously select streaming, and much of what I'm going to show you will be done for you via the software itself. Now, since I have already used OBS for recording, this is how I'm going to do it. And it's okay because I can show you in detail what to set up. So the first thing you need to do is come right here and add a source. And the source you need to add is called Video Capture Device. Now let's call it LIVEPRO L1 and hit OK. And now under Device, drop-down menu, you can either select something integrated, like the webcam of your laptop or whatever, which is obviously not what we are trying to do. What we want is the eEver USB device. And for some reason, that is how the LIVEPRO L1 registers with this particular MacBook. eEver USB device. And there we go. Now we're getting the signal, the streaming signal that is output via the LIVEPRO L1. Don't have to do anything else here. Now just make sure to make this bigger until it locks, and there we go. Now next up, we're going to come here to settings. And the settings we have to check out are stream, output, and video. Let's start with video. Now, base canvas resolution, 1920 by 1080 Full HD. That's the resolution of your preview right here, of the OBS preview. That is not the resolution you are streaming at. The resolution you are streaming at is the output scaled resolution. Again, 1920 by 1080 is my preferred option, just for reasons of quality. If you have trouble with live streaming and the quality isn't, as far as lagging goes, what you want it to be, the first thing you would do is lower the output scaled resolution, because then you need less bandwidth to get your signal up, or the bandwidth that you have has to deal with less resolution. So that would be the first thing to lower if you're not cool with the quality of your live stream. So downscale filter, bilinear, I'm just using the fastest one for performance reasons. Then common frames per second. Now for what I'm doing, 25 is fine. You could go 24. NTSC and PAL doesn't really matter for YouTube. And if you're live streaming to the internet, no one's watching on an old TV set anyway. Now if you were to stream games and such, you probably are looking at 48, 50, 60 frames per second to get this super fluid motion. But for what I'm doing and for regular live streaming, 24, 25 frames per second is enough. Next up, output. Now output mode, I'm using the advanced mode, and under streaming, I use audio track 1, encoder X264. There's other options, but this is usually the best one. Rate control, CBR, constant bitrate. You have to set this up for most streaming services to even use your signal, because most of them require you to use a constant bitrate. Now, 8000 kilobits, the actual bitrate. How did I arrive at that? To show you, let's go to speed test right here. This is speedtest.net. I'm going to start it again. This is an easy way to see basically how fast your internet connection is as far as upload and download is concerned. So you just hit go and let it do its thing. And it's going to take a couple of seconds for each stream, downstream and upstream, to show you the average speed you can get over an extended period of time. So upload is around 57, I see. Now download is probably going to be around 9.8 or something. But it's currently late, so the internet speed is faster than it usually is. There needs to be some buffer. So let's see where this lands at, 9.88. So I could probably on a bad day go as low as 8.5 or 8.8. Now this is megabits per second, right? So it's 9.88. But OBS wants kilobits per second, kbps. Well, it's pretty simple. To go from megabits to kilobits, you just multiply by 1,000. So currently, my upstream would be 9,880 kilobits. But as I told you, I want to have some buffer. I could probably get 8.5 megabits, so 8,500 kilobits. But I want to make sure I don't drop frames, and I want to make sure my stream is not lagging. So I'm going for 8,000. So I'm roughly having 500 kilobits or 0.5 megabits of a buffer there. That's how I arrive at that number. Keyframe interval 2. That seems to be a standard setting. I can't really tell you what that does. CPU usage. You should arrive at medium. This is going to give you a good quality stream. If you got a very slow PC or computer, you need to move this up, but at ultra fast and super fast, the quality is really not good. So if you're landing at fast or medium, that's awesome. And if you got like a beast of a machine, you can try slower, and these lower settings. But medium, faster is where you should hopefully arrive at. How to check which one is right, I'm going to show you in a moment. Now profile, main, it's a standard setting. Tuning, most people don't set anything here. I feel that fast decode gives me a bit of an edge. It's not much, maybe it's a placebo, but I feel fast decode gives me a bit more speed. But if you're okay with the quality of your stream, don't set anything for tuning. Now, stream, last option. Service, obviously the one you want to use, in my case YouTube. For the server, just go with whatever OBS selects for you. And now here's the streaming key. Now I already have one. If you don't have one, you can click on Get Stream Key. And depending on the service you set up here, it's going to get you right into the streaming studio of that service. So if I click Get Stream Key, it's going to get me right into YouTube. Let me just close this one and let me translate this into English. And there we go. So this is what YouTube Streaming Studio looks like. And if you didn't already have a streaming key, right here, this one would be yours. So you could just copy it, come back to OBS and enter it right here. And you would be all good to go. Now, before you exit, hit Apply. Just hitting OK is not going to save your settings. Always hit Apply, because I haven't actually changed anything. This is grayed out. But you, setting this up for the first time, definitely have to hit Apply. Now I'm just going to hit OK. And then the only thing that's left to do is come here and start streaming. It's going to take a second or two. And there we go. What you want is a completely green square right here. Kilobits per second, about 8,000, a bit more, a bit less. This is prone to variations, but if it's around 8,000, around the number that you set, you're good. 25 frames per second is all right. CPU usage really low, the lower the better. If this goes above like 40, 50%, your CPU profile is not set correctly. You might go from medium to fast or faster to keep this at around 20 or lower. Now live for 43 seconds and 0 dropped frames. This is important to guarantee the best quality live stream. If you're dropping frames, you need to lower the quality of your signal by the means that I've shown you. If this stays at 0% dropped frames, you're good. And as you can already see, let me just see how I can do this. Okay, I'm going to close the OBS window. Watch this window right here, the live streaming signal inside YouTube. So I'm going to close the OBS right now, and the window right here is still there. There's a lot of lag between the signal that comes out of the LivePro L1 and goes into the OBS and what YouTube gets. See, right now it closed the OBS window. It's about a 10-second delay, but that is normal. That is a huge buffer that YouTube uses to make sure that the audience is getting a continuous stream. So don't be alarmed by that. The stream itself is going to run smoothly. Let's go back here. So I've already set up everything and I'm currently streaming live. It's a private stream, but it is live. Now, this is what YouTube looks like if you've already set up the LivePro 1 as a webcam. Oh, and as you might be able to hear, the fans of my MacBook Pro are kicking in real bad because now it's streaming. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to end the stream and I'm going to set up the L1 as a webcam to use for streaming on YouTube because that is what you would encounter setting this up for the first time. So let's come right here. Let's end the stream. Not go into the dictionary. Yeah, break it up. So once you've done a stream, you could edit it in YouTube Studio and make it a video. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm shutting down. So something else we have to do is stop streaming in OBS. Because if you don't stop streaming here, YouTube is going to try and automatically start a new live stream with the still ongoing signal. Now, this is not what we need right now. What we need to do is come to the left right here and go to webcam. Now, this is what it would look like the first time you set this up. So let's call it LIVEPRO L1. You can select whether you want this to be private or not listed or public. Private is fine for me. You can also plan it for later. No, it's not especially made for kids in my case. And now the very important option, under more options. This is where you set up the correct camera and microphone. Now right here under camera, again, you want to use ever USB device because this is what the L1 registers as, at least with my setup right here. And for the microphone, again, you don't want to use the built-in microphone, but in this case, the feelworld USB 3 capture, which again is what the LIVEPRO L1 registers as if we're going to use its audio. So this is what it needs to look like. ever USB device for the camera, feelworld USB 3 capture for the microphone. Then if we hit further, it's going to take a screenshot, a thumbnail for that camera, and you could then start the live stream. Now this can take a couple of seconds, sometimes longer, but sooner or later your stream will now be cast live, and there we are, live again. Now that's it. This is how you would then live stream. And yeah, you can use all the features of the YouTube live streaming studio, which I'm not going to go into right now because this is not part of the video. So I'm just going to end that stream, break it up, and I'm not going to make it a video in YouTube Studio. Yeah, all right, fine. So, one more thing before I wrap this video up. As you might know, if you've been using Atoms, Atom, or Blackmagic I should say, gives you the option of the Atom Control software, which allows you to do full screen or lower thirds live overlays, for example, and lots of other cool stuff. Now the L1 also comes with a software. It's called XPOSE, and it lets you do similar things, maybe not as much as the Atom software control, but still there is a software that you can use to control the LIVEPRO L1. But there's one teeny tiny problem with that software, and it's simply that if you're running the latest Mac OS, unfortunately the LIVEPRO software cannot be verified as of yet. And this is a pretty recent MacBook Pro with a touch bar, and the OS I'm running currently is Big Sur version 11.01. So if that's your configuration and you want to use the LIVEPRO L1 control software, the XPOSE software with a Mac, for some reason they didn't get around to make it so that Apple could verify their software. If you're running a Windows machine, that shouldn't be a problem, but with a Mac, as you can see, at least with Big Sur 11.01, the software can't be verified. Still, all you need to operate the L1 basically sits on the interface. And as you've seen, it's pretty simple to operate the L1. And in my book, it does everything I want from a live streaming device, at least if that's the type of live streaming you want to do, right? You're a one-man show, one-woman show, and you want to do this from your home or within a little studio space like this. I had nothing but a great experience with the L1. It's really easy to set up. It's self-explanatory. I really like the little display, the preview display right on the device itself. It is something that I think the Atoms lack, and I'm pretty happy that it has this little preview monitor on the L1. Yeah, I mean, the feature set isn't as big as with the Atom Mini or any Atom. Obviously, you don't have audio follows video, for example. It is probably slower to set up, but then again, you're getting this interesting T-bar feature. And overall, for scenarios like this one, it's actually a very good option in my opinion, and at half the price of an ATEM Mini. So that's it for this video. I hope you got a better idea of the capabilities of the LIVEPRO L1 and whether it might be a viable option for and whether it might be a viable option for what you are trying to accomplish. Yeah, that's it for this video. If you liked it, if you found it helpful, please make sure to leave a thumbs up. It's greatly appreciated. Any kind of comment or feedback is welcome, and I'll try to answer as quickly as possible. However, currently, because of COVID, I have to hustle a lot outside of YouTube, so it might take me a while to get back to you. As always, I'm going to link all the tech that I've used in the description, and if this video does well, I might also create a kit on kit.co that has all the parts, all the cables, including descriptions, so you know exactly what I'm using here and what you might need to get going yourself. As always, thank you so much for your time, thank you for watching, and hopefully see you again soon.